Hey friend, welcome back to the Vision Driven Health Podcast, the go-to show for creating healthy habits that last in partnership with the God who created you. Now you might hear that I sound a little bit nasally. I'm a bit under the weather. Energy's fine. But I was thinking about, man, it's so annoying. I don't like getting sick. I don't know anybody who does. But I used to think, I feel like I didn't get as sick as often, a few years ago. And I still don't get sick that often as it is, I guess, comparatively. But the big difference between, I guess you'd say, about 5 years ago and now is now I've got little people who will cough directly into my face and mouth. And apparently, I don't know, I guess you need a stronger immune system to be able to prevent sickness with that. So forgive the nasally voice for today's episode. But I'm very excited for today's episode because, number one, I love food. Number two, I really love holiday food. I have varied in my approach to healthy eating over the years, and one thing has stayed the same. I do not skimp on my holiday meals, particularly Thanksgiving. My birthday is always the week of Thanksgiving, and it sometimes actually falls on the day of Thanksgiving. So I feel like it just kind of makes Thanksgiving extra special for me. It's a feast of gratitude for all the things, but then also for the life that God has given me. So with that said, I know that these more indulgent holiday meals and foods, they often come with what feels like inevitable weight gain. Today, I'm going to reveal what common holiday eating habits cause weight gain, as well as provide some simple and effective tips to not gain weight while still enjoying your favorite holiday foods. Let's get to it.
Do you find yourself struggling to consistently implement healthy habits? Do you lack energy, confidence, and motivation because of stress, overwhelm, and shame for having not gotten it together by now? Friend, there is hope and grace for your health. Hey, I'm Robin Ryan McDonald, host of the Vision Driven Health Podcast. I'm a follower of Jesus, a wife, a mama of two, and a seminarian turned health coach. And I'm so excited that you're here. I found myself in my early 20s captive to cravings and convenience. 20 pounds heavier, super tired, with a face full of acne. I could not figure out how to maintain healthy habits until I discovered the power of aligning my choices with God's vision. 10 years and 2 kids later, by the grace of God, I'm still prioritizing my health and feeling amazing. If you are over quick fixes and are ready to feel good in your own skin, then grab a giant water bottle and let's dive on in. As a reminder, the Vision Driven Health Podcast is under the umbrella of Naval Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions.
I hear so many people say, can you just tell me what to eat? I need a meal plan or whatever it is. I'll just follow it exactly what it is. I don't want to have to think about it, which I can fully appreciate. However, that's not really my style. And I actually think it's because we don't think about it that we find ourselves out of control with our eating. But to make it as simple as possible to put together a game plan for Thanksgiving or your other holiday meals, I have created the Thanksgiving Meal Plan Guide. I made this a few years ago for my clients because I wanted them to feel excited and empowered going into Thanksgiving instead of afraid that they'll just derail all of their progress. I started to notice this concern or fear as Thanksgiving approached. So in this guide, I talk through the mindsets that feed unwanted weight gain through the end of the year, as well as the key concepts to approaching Thanksgiving in a way that creates space to eat your favorites and not hate yourself the next day. It's also packed with healthy Thanksgiving recipes and ideas for sides that you can bring, or even how you can put together your own healthy, tasty Thanksgiving meal. You can get this guide for free at visiondrivenhealth.com/Thanksgiving. I'm super excited for this episode because I have seen numerous clients use these same tips and get through the holidays feeling healthier than ever in their relationship with food. They don't fear Thanksgiving or holiday outings because, as a result of implementing this, they now understand how to be the one behind the wheel instead of letting their emotions, cravings, or even family pressure put them in the passenger seat. If you can identify some of these common mistakes I'm about to mention and then implement the tips that I give, I'm telling you, you're going to have a different experience these next few weeks. You'll head into 2025 with a massive head start on your healthy habits. So without further ado, let's talk about the biggest culprits to gaining weight during the holidays. First up is eating too little before a holiday party or meal. Now, I know we think eat less so you can eat more later, or eat less before or nothing at all so it's just overall less calories when you go crazy later on in the day, which I totally get because I used to do that. But here's what the research shows. When we skip breakfast and lunch, when we otherwise don't normally do that, I understand some people might be doing intermittent fasting, but if you haven't already trained your body to be fat dependent and you've already, set up a routine of intermittent fasting, if you're just deciding out of the blue to skip your breakfast and lunch prior to the big Thanksgiving meal, for example, it actually increases your chances of overeating and reduces your ability to make more informed, intentional choices, which isn't too surprising, right? Because we've all been there. We accidentally skip a meal or didn't realize it's been 5 or 6 hours since we last ate, and we just all of a sudden feel like we're starving. And then we end up getting a giant meal only to feel super crummy afterwards. When, if we'd had a snack or a small meal a couple hours prior, we could have made a healthier, much more reasonably portioned dinner decision. Same thing with the holidays. Don't starve yourself because you're planning to eat a ton of food later. So that's number one. The second culprit for holiday weight gain is eating less food overall, but making the majority of what you eat simple carbs. So what do I mean by that? So let's just say hypothetically, you're trying to be quote unquote good, which that's like a whole nother episode when people think, oh no, I need to stop being bad. I'm going to be good when you're talking about your eating choices. Just think about that for a second of how that's problematic. But anyways, let's just say you're trying to quote unquote be good. And so when you go to the holiday party, you just have a little bit of eggnog and a couple of cookies and you're just like, I'm going to leave it at that. And you're just like, I'm trying to, not eat too much. And you felt like maybe that's better than actually having the full meal. You don't have any of the ham or the bacon wrapped dates or the charcuterie plate or the chips and guac or whatever else was available. Here's the problem with that. You're causing a massive blood sugar spike that will likely perpetuate cravings for more sugar either later that evening or the days that follow. If you wonder why you binge later, it's partially because your body is literally sending hunger cues as a result of only getting those simple carbs to try and get you to eat something of nutritional value, aka protein, fiber, healthy fats, so that it can function the way it's supposed to. So if you choose to eat less, my encouragement, don't just eat simple carbs. Try to get in the protein, the fiber, and the healthy fat too. Number 3, making overly processed treats a holiday norm. What do I mean by this? If you don't usually snack on chocolates and candies, if you don't usually get the pumpkin spice or caramel macchiatos or the other 50 grams of sugar coffees, on a regular basis, but now they're somehow in your mix 1 to 3 times a week or more. If you don't usually eat the gingerbread cookies from Trader Joe's or the holiday popcorn mix, but now it's always in your pantry, you've always got a little snack or treat that you're kind of diving into throughout the day or in the evenings, right? We've all been there. And to be clear, I'm all for enjoying these delightful treats occasionally and intentionally. But when what used to be an occasional treat becomes a consistent norm, it's inevitably going to affect your waistline and have a big impact on your battle with healthy eating because you're reprogramming your cravings and blood sugar to want more of those kinds of foods. Number 4. The fourth culprit that causes weight gain during the holidays is moving less. Depending on what your climate is like during the holidays, I know we do have some international folk, love that you're listening, who might be headed more into summer weather, which still like boggles my mind to have like Christmas in the summer. But I guess, what can I say? I'm in California, so I guess it's as close as it gets to that. But typically in the US, it gets darker, right? It's darker sooner and it gets colder in the winter. I know, again, I'm in California, so I'm not dealing with snow or anything, but that just means we're usually outside less. We're less likely to move on a day-to-day basis. We're even losing some hours of outside activity that maybe we normally would have in the summer just because we'd be out in the evening. So that combined with the other factors I just mentioned is not only the expected issue of increasing calories while decreasing the movement to burn them, but also you're taking away your body's ability to regulate blood sugar and maintain a healthier metabolism. Even if you can't get outside for walks, you can do simple workouts inside, or you can go to a gym, or hey, you could go do some Christmas shopping and walk around the mall. You can definitely get in some good steps doing that. And just, try not to, if you keep using the mall as your walking place in the winter, try not to spend all your money. So to recap the culprits of weight gain, number 1, eating nothing or too little before the big meal. Number 2, eating primarily simple carbs, high sugar, the flour, the cookies, all that kind of stuff. Number 3, making processed sugar treats a norm instead of a treat. And then number 4, moving less. So then you're like, okay, I can try to stop doing that. What else? So first, I do want to address a couple quick mindset elements that are actually in the Thanksgiving game plan that I mentioned earlier. So it's important to be aware of these 2 common perspectives. Number 1 is the binge mindset, also known as the all or nothing mentality. In this mindset, Thanksgiving or the holiday meals or parties or whatever becomes kind of a day of all-out binging. The days before and after are extra restricted to accommodate the binge because there's just not a perspective of balance and intentionality. And then Thanksgiving can totally be a day where you are not intentionally sticking to your healthy habits, but what it doesn't have to be is a day that you just consume so much that you actually take the joy out of the food you're eating with that post-feast indigestion. So if your intention is to enjoy the food you've always loved, then you want to set yourself up to be able to love it into the next day. It doesn't have to be the all or nothing. So that's the first mentality, the binge all or nothing mentality. Number 2 is the perfectionist mindset. Now, in the guide, I didn't create this guide so that my clients could figure out how to be perfectly healthy for Thanksgiving. The guide is meant to be a support to what can be a wonderful gratitude and family-focused holiday. And it's okay if you don't, whatever healthy habits or requirements you have yourself, you don't hit those. It's okay if you eat foods you weren't planning to. It's okay if you deviate from the plan that you set for yourself. It's okay if you end up eating too much. It all depends on what you want to create for your health, for your experience of the holiday. And you know what? If you get a handle on these things, this can actually be the last holiday season and the last year that you give your power away to those damaging thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. So what does it look like to approach this in a healthy way? Well, it's all about MIP, which is your mindset, intention, and plan. I'm sure there's a better acronym that I could have created, but we'll go with that. So the question for mindset is, are you holding a mindset that is aligned with God's grace and provision for you to enjoy holiday food without being gluttonous? Are you aligned with the grace provided you by God to continue to see your food choices as a means of stewarding your body? Are you aligned with your vision, the vision that God has given you for your life and the way that your health directly impacts and supports that vision? Spending some time with those questions will really cue you into the mindset that you have and whether or not you're in the right literal headspace for the rest of MIP, which is your intention and plan. So then your intention is how you want to approach the specific holiday meal that you're up against. So to use Thanksgiving as an example, you could decide Thanksgiving is just your holiday. I would put myself in this category. And you don't want to feel restricted, but you also don't want to go off the rails or hate yourself the next day. Or maybe you might say, I actually do want to take it easy this year, every year. Maybe you regret the overeating. And so you're like, I actually just want to try and eat primarily healthy and just be a little bit more intentional with the indulgences and things that are available. And then obviously there's everything in between and all around the spectrum. So, and I'll share my approach here in just a little bit. But once you have that intention, then you can go to P, which is plan, right? So M, mindset, I, intention, P, plan, MIP. This is just thinking through the day and the options that you're going to have for this big meal. So you'll decide, okay, I'm not going to skip breakfast. I'm going to have a high protein breakfast with some healthy fats. So maybe you'll do a few eggs with some bacon or avocado. And then you're like, all right, I'm not going to skip lunch either because I don't want to be ravenous if you're doing, a dinner time Thanksgiving or whatever. So you have a little bit of Greek yogurt with some blueberries, nothing massive, but enough to provide some protein and nutrient density. Then for the actual meal, you decide how you'll approach it. If you want to reduce the chances of overeating, start with veggies and protein. Get some of the salad, get some of the green beans, load up on the turkey, then do smaller portions of the higher carb things. Maybe decide to have a sliver of each pie or only a slice of pie when you get to the dessert portion. Now for me, we make everything from scratch. I'll be making the bread for the stuffing, the dinner rolls. I'll be doing sourdough bread for both of those. We make our own cranberry sauce, all of the things. And I'm not saying people have to do this. I personally love it. I think it's so fun and exciting. It's a lot of work, but to me, the reward is high. But I also know the quality of the food that I'm eating, and I just feel so much better and more comfortable eating all that we have for our feast. I've been to different gatherings where it's like, I don't know, one time the hors d'oeuvre, the appetizer, whatever, they had celery filled with Velveeta cheese and Miracle Whip or something like that. And I was like, what? Like, I wasn't going to eat that. But at the end of the day, mac and cheese is still a ton of cheese and simple carbs. Even though I made it and it's glorious, it's not the same as Brussels sprouts. So I usually do my first plate, which yes, I do multiple plates, with turkey, the Brussels sprouts, and salad. These are things I know that we'll have. And then I'll do a little bit of stuffing, mac and cheese, the dinner roll, and then maybe like a teeny bit of whatever else is there. And, this makes a pretty sizable plate. And then when I eat, I start with the veggies, then I move to the protein, and then I go to the carbs. This prevents the blood sugar spike and will actually help keep you from overeating because your body will be getting the nutrient-dense things first, and it won't have to send a signal if, let's just say, I started with the dinner roll. And actually, I've said this before on different episodes, but if you go to a restaurant that has chips or a dinner roll and you eat those first, your body will actually increase your hunger, and people will usually eat 30% more food by starting with that than if they would have waited to start with a salad or something like that. So that's why I do that. Then after I finish my first plate, I kind of assess how I'm feeling. And then I also assess what I thought tasted best. And honestly, what I usually think tastes best, I'm not going to tell you it was the Brussels sprouts, though we do make some bomb Brussels sprouts. I usually go back for more stuffing and mac and cheese and maybe a dinner roll too. And I might do them in smaller quantities, or if I'm not feeling super stuffed, I might do a little bit more. And then I'll let things sit. I do try and move around. I think I'm going to actually try and implement a in between dinner and dessert carb walk or porch walk or something, do something with the kids. Because after you eat a larger meal in general, if you take even just 10 or 15 minutes to walk or move around, you actually reduce your blood sugar spike and you can actually create space for more. So then when it comes to dessert, we make 4 different kinds of pies. We usually do apple, pumpkin, blueberry, and banana cream pie. Yum. And I'll usually just do a little sliver of each, or maybe I'll just pick 2, which maybe I'll do the blueberry or the banana cream because everybody knows there's not going to be any leftovers of that. There's usually leftovers of pumpkin pie because we do multiples of those. And then I'll get pumpkin pie tomorrow, or I'll just do a little bit of pumpkin pie. If you had to pick one of the pies from a nutrient standpoint, pumpkin pie is probably your best bet. It's going to be a little bit less sugar. Granted, I guess depends on where you get it, but that would be my pick if I had to only pick one from a health standpoint. But again, it's Thanksgiving. It's also about the taste. But anyways, that's what I do for my Thanksgiving. And really the key is what you do the days that follow. So we always have tons of leftovers and, we'll eat the same things over the next few days. And still only, each of the times that I have the leftovers, it's one meal out of the day, and I'm still eating other nutrient-dense, high-protein meals, whether that's for breakfast and dinner or breakfast and lunch, depending on when I have the Thanksgiving leftovers. And again, I do touch on even like in the Thanksgiving meal plan, we talk about the days before, I give you a whole bunch of recipes, and then I actually give a section on like the days that follow, because how I mentioned earlier, if you have the perfectionist mindset and maybe you did, put intentionality, you had a plan and you ended up going overboard, it's important to have grace for yourself. It's important to be intentional moving forward. Again, you can read that in the Thanksgiving meal plan at visiondrivenhealth.com/Thanksgiving. But to wrap up, here are just a couple of quick tips to support you the last few weeks of the year if your goal is to still enjoy your favorite holiday foods, but not gain weight. So whenever you're at any kind of gathering, eat the healthiest options first. Go for the protein, go for the veggies. I'm not saying don't have the other stuff. I'm just saying eat that stuff first. And I've already explained a couple times why that's beneficial. The other thing is make treats treats. Make treats treats again. I think that really is important in the holidays. And I know it can be hard because it feels like, it's the holidays, and so it's only these couple of months where I'm going to be eating this. But I guess would encourage you to be mindful of how frequently these former treats are now becoming normative. And I've said in previous episodes, if you want my bone broth hot chocolate recipe, you can email me. I don't think I've put it up as a blog yet. But with that said, that's actually my go-to treat because it's actually extremely nutrient dense. It has bone broth, it has organic milk, it has cacao, it uses maple syrup to sweeten it. It also has electrolytes that I put into it. And cinnamon. It's really good. And it has a ton of protein too, but it feels like I'm cozying up with some hot chocolate at the end of the evening. And it's amazing. So anyways, finding also healthy alternative treats is a really great tip and important to implement, because you'll be surprised how many things actually are just as satisfying as whatever treat you're used to getting. Next one, don't let the chaos of the holidays prevent you from continuing your usual meal prep or starting to meal prep. And try not to make convenience meals a winter norm. Bust out the crock pot and the Instant Pot, make soups, chilies, stews. These are some of the easiest meals to make, and they're meals that you put together at the beginning of the day or early afternoon, and it's ready in the evening. You don't even have to fuss around the kitchen before dinner. They're fantastic. So really look into those, and then find ways to keep moving. Get creative. I gave you some options earlier. It's super important to figure that out. And then lastly, just remember MIP, MIP, mindset, intention, plan. You can apply that to any situation. With that said, friends, I hope you have found this helpful today. If you did, please share it with a friend, post it on your social media. Otherwise, I hope you have an incredibly blessed holiday season, and I will be back next week to chat with you again.
Thank you so much for listening to the Vision Driven Health podcast today. I hope this episode inspired you, supported you, and blessed you in some way. If it did, it would mean the world if you would leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcast and share this episode on your social media. The more reviews and shares this gets, the more people can be blessed and encouraged in creating a Jesus-centered, sustainable, healthy lifestyle. If you want to hang with me and other Jesus-loving ladies who are creating healthy habits that last, be sure to join my free Facebook group, the Made Well Mastermind. Use the link in the show notes to join. Be blessed with hope, joy, and health. I'll see you next week. Again, the Vision Driven Health podcast is under the umbrella of Made Well Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions.